Welcome and welcome back to my channel. My name is Noelle, aka MakeupEsquire, and today I created this makeup look using a full face of Clé de Peau Beauty. I also showcased my top favorite Tanseido brushes since Tanseido recently announced a price increase coming up on April 1st, so prices of these brushes are expected to at least double in price. So I wanted to show off my favorite Tanseido brushes for you in this video. I will link BEAUTÉ's website in the description box down below where you can pick up all my favorite Tanseido brushes. So if you'd like to see how I achieved this look, please keep watching. Let's get right into it. So I pulled out my Clé de Peau SPF. This is honestly the best SPF I've ever used. The formula is so elegant. As you can see, I'm almost done with mine and I'm saving the rest just because it's so pricey and bougie, but everything from the packaging to the full experience is just 10 out of 10. My only complaint is that it is a chemical SPF and I personally prefer to use a physical one. But other than that, ooh, this is a good one. I will say it does have a slight scent to it. Personally, it does not bother me, but I will just put it out there in case you're sensitive to scents. As far as a primer goes, I pulled out this primer. I'm not gonna try to pronounce this name, y'all, but it's their Correcting Cream Veil. It also has an SPF of 25, but I didn't rely on this SPF alone, which is why I first primed with SPF 50. And I believe that this primer is supposed to help correct redness and discoloration, and it's just like a nice moisturizing base to put underneath your makeup. I'm going to be applying this on half of my face so that we could see whether we see a difference. Personally, I don't see a big enough difference for this to be like a holy grail product for me or anything, but I also don't have much redness, so maybe if you do have rosacea and if you've ever tried this, I would love to hear your thoughts. This one is also very lightly scented as well, but not enough, again, to bother me. And if you're familiar with the way that Chanel makeup is scented, I will say that this scent is not as strong. So if you can tolerate the Chanel scent, then you should be able to tolerate the scent in this product. For me personally, it's not a holy grail product. I picked it up because I was curious to try it, but it does just kind of feel like a lightweight moisturizer. You can see how it leaves kind of a white cast on my skin tone. And right now I'm at my lightest. I don't have a self tan on right now, and we're coming out of the winter months, so I'm particularly more pale than usual. So I will say that this primer will probably only work for skin tones that are lighter than me. All right, so jumping right into foundation, I did bring out my 3 Clé de Peau foundations that I have on hand. I have this The Foundation by Clé de Peau. It has a broad spectrum SPF of 22. As you can see, I love the foundation so much that I purchased it in 2 shades. This here is the shade 040 and this shade is the 050, which I do use when I'm slightly more tan than I am now. I also have the Clé de Peau Cushion Foundation, and this is in the shade 30 Medium Ochre. As you can see, this one's well loved. It's a really beautiful cushion foundation. But today I'm going to be going in with the foundation in the shade 040. As you can see, the shade 040 is a pretty good shade match to my skin tone right now. When it comes to foundation brushes by Tanseido, these would be my top 2 picks. You have a Kolinsky flat brush and then a more wispy goat brush. And these goat hair bristles feel more like Ototsuho goat hairs, which is a lower grade of goat hair as opposed to Sokoho and Coho. And it's not necessarily a bad thing because these are the type of bristles that one would want if you are using this brush as a foundation brush, as opposed to a higher grade of goat hair, which I will go into later on for powder application. But you can see the difference between, you can see how this brush here to my left has Sokoho goat hair bristles and they are much thinner, and these are more thick and they just have more body, so they can stand up to foundation better than these bristles here. So I just took out a little bit of that foundation on this palette here, and I'm going to first be dipping into it with the Kolinsky brush. I apologize in advance that I don't have the names of these brushes memorized, but you'll be able to find these brushes at the BEAUTÉ website through the link below in the description. I like this Kolinsky brush because it just applies a very even application of product, and Kolinsky's resilient and it can be used with all types of formulas such as powder, creams, and liquids. This The Foundation by Clé de Peau is such an elegant formula. It's honestly up in my top favorite foundations. It sits so beautifully on the skin. It has really great lasting power throughout the day, and it supposedly also has skin-loving ingredients. It feels super lightweight on the skin. I would say this is a light to medium coverage. So I'm using the Kolinsky brush on this side, and I'll be going into the goat hair foundation brush for the other side. If you were to ask me which foundation brush I would pick between the two, I love this thick Kolinsky flat paddle brush. I do think that it's quite unique in the market, although I will say a couple of other Fude brush makers do have similar brushes. Ihodo makes a similar one, so does Chikuhodo. So if you're trying to decide between these two for a foundation brush, I will say that the white one does give you the ability to use it with powders as well. So it would be able to be used in more ways than this Kolinsky brush would. But I think I would have to recommend the white hair brush over the flat Kolinsky one, just for that reason alone. I do want to just feature the cushion foundation just for the T-zone. If I were to be using this cushion foundation today, I would be able to use honestly either of these two brushes. It just depends on what type of application you're looking for. The Kolinsky one will obviously give you a more concentrated application, and the goat hair one will give you a more dispersed application. This brush here would also be great to use with liquid and cream blushes and liquid and cream contour or bronzer as well, which is why I just think you would get more uses out of it in comparison to the Kolinsky brush. Okay, now let's apply concealer. So these are all of my Clé de Peau concealers. I clearly love Clé de Peau's stick concealer, so I have almost every shade. I recently picked up these eye brighteners in the shade Beige and Ivory. This is the shade Beige, and this is the shade Ivory. I typically don't like these push-up type of brush applicators, so that's the only reason why if you're trying to decide which concealer by Clé de Peau to get, I would definitely recommend the stick ones. These for me would be repurchases, but for these, I just don't think that they're necessarily worth it. They are beautiful, and they are mostly under-eye brighteners as opposed to concealers that will provide you with coverage. These Clé de Peau correctors, they're called the Radiant Correctors for eyes. They act more like under-eye brighteners as opposed to concealers just because they have such light coverage, but I will say that they do add a very beautiful brightening effect in the under-eye area. When it comes to concealer brushes, I have a couple from Tanseido that would work for this step. This is the KQ15, and you can see it has the BO right there since I picked it up on the Fude Bobo website, and I do appreciate how she has the names of the brushes engraved on the brushes as opposed to other retailers that don't. These are Kolinsky brushes, and I love using Kolinsky brushes for concealer. I'm gonna go in with the shade Almond in the Clé de Peau stick concealer, since as you can see, it's a pretty good match to my actual skin tone right now. And because that foundation didn't give me the coverage that I want, I love going in with these stick concealers to just add more coverage as needed. What I love about these stick concealers is not only the formula and the packaging, but also the fact that they do have some added SPF, and it's really hard to find good concealers on the market with added SPF. They do only have an SPF of 25, but it's still something, and I don't think that it compromises the actual integrity of the product. I also really love the shade Ochre, so I'm just gonna add a little bit of the shade Ochre as well. And I'm gonna go in with the KQ15 brush for this step, and I'm just gonna start to blend out the concealer. If you're deciding between these two brushes, I would choose this KQ15 brush personally over the other one that's similar to it, that as you can see is just more flat, just because the KQ15 does give you more hairs, it's denser, so the bristles just have more body to them, and in effect that helps you blend out the concealer better than the other brush that is more flat. I love using this stick concealer as like a touch-up concealer throughout the day. I love being able to just throw it in my purse and dip into it with my finger if I feel like I need to touch up anywhere. Like if I'm wearing sunglasses throughout the day and I see some indentations on my nose, this is a great concealer to just touch up with because all you really need is your finger. You don't even need a brush to apply it. Today I'm using brushes because I'm trying to showcase as many Tanseido brushes as I can. Just to showcase the other brush, I'll go ahead and dip into these correctors. The shade Beige just has a more pinky undertone and the shade Ivory has a more yellowy undertone. I like using the pinky one in areas where I have some blue tones to color correct, and the shade Ivory is great to just add a brightening effect. So this flat Kolinsky brush is more of a lay down brush than a blending brush. So I'm just gonna be going back into my KQ15 and blending that all out. And I'm keeping those eye brighteners towards the center of my face because that's where we really want to add brightness and add to the dimension once we go ahead and deepen up the perimeter of the face. Now for powder, I do have Clé de Peau's pressed powder. Since Clé de Peau doesn't have a loose powder that I'm aware of, I will just be going in with my tried and true. I do have combination to oily skin, so using a loose powder is a must for me, but I will go ahead and touch up with the Clé de Peau pressed powder afterwards. For this step, depending on your preference of application and how much powder you like to apply, these are the Tanseido brushes that I would recommend. This one is the WS14. It has a 3D angled shape, and the other ones don't have names on the handles. But one of the things that I do appreciate about Tanseido is that they do offer you a variety of different bristle types in the same shapes. So this one is a goat hair brush that's dyed with tea, which is a traditional Japanese way of dyeing bristles. This one is a squirrel hair brush, and it's either gray or blue squirrel. Both gray and blue squirrel are very similar, so they're pretty much interchangeable. And then these two over here are Sokoho goat hairs. So it's just a matter of preference. If your skin is more on the dry side, then I would recommend going in with a squirrel brush, especially if you are just trying to tap on a little bit of powder. You'll get a very lightweight application with squirrel. But if, like me, you like to pack on the powder, then I would recommend something more like a Sokoho goat hair brush for this step. If I had to personally choose among these brushes, I would choose this pointy tapered one just because you can use this one in so many ways. You could use this brush here for powder contour. You could even use it for a little bit of pinpoint blush. You could use it for highlighter. You could even use it in a pinch. You could even use it for powder bronzer if you're really trying to get close to the hairline and need a very precise brush for that step. So because you can use this brush even for under eye setting, like I'm using it now, I highly recommend this one. Now to go in with powder on the rest of the face, I would go in with a larger, fluffier brush. And here are some options by Tanseido. So if you do have combo to oily skin like me, I would recommend going in with a tea-dyed goat hair brush like this. But again, if your skin is very sensitive, then I would definitely recommend going in with a squirrel hair brush like these. You could choose between a round ferrule and a flat ferrule depending on your specific preferences. I'm gonna go in with this Clé de Peau pressed powder. I'm gonna be using this tea-dyed goat hair brush for this step. Let's go in with some powder contour. So the brushes that I would recommend for this step are these three. Again, I love how Tanseido gives you the option of choosing between a shorter handle or a longer handle and the option of choosing between which type of bristle and hair you want. This right here is the SS14 and it's a squirrel hair brush. This is the WS14 and it's a Sokoho goat hair brush. And then this one doesn't have the name on it. It might be the same WS14 as its sister, except it's in tea-dyed goat hair. I love how these are 3D shapes, which is this angle right here that just perfectly hugs your cheek. If I were to go in with cream contour, I would choose this tea-dyed goat hair brush just because the tea dye does add a little bit more body to the bristles, and in effect that helps them hold up to cream products. But since we're going in with powder contour, I would personally choose something more like the Sokoho goat hair or the gray squirrel hair. for this step. And because Clé de Peau doesn't have a powder contour, I will be going in with my tried and true Natasha Denona medium contour sculpting powder. As you can see, I'm very proud of the fact that I've hit pan on it, and I do intend on picking up another one as a backup. Again, I'll be linking all the products that I'm using down below in the description box. Just for fun, I'm going to be applying the powder contour with squirrel hair on one side and goat hair on the other. Going in with the WS14, you'll definitely get more pickup using a goat hair brush than you will with a squirrel hair brush. This goat hair is very soft, and Tanseido tends to make their brushes on the airy side. They're quite wispy, which is a matter of personal preference. Some people like that, some people prefer denser brushes, but I do appreciate that when it comes to highly pigmented products. And in effect, the wispiness helps you control the amount of product you're applying on your face at one time. So especially if you're a beginner, I would recommend using more airy brushes like these as opposed to more dense brushes. For instance, like this Tanseido brush here, which I believe is Fitch hair, but as you can see, it's a lot more dense. And so this is going to give you a much more concentrated application of product as opposed to an airier brush. If you want even less concentrated of an application, then I would suggest going in with a squirrel hair brush like this. And this is the SS14 brush. I picked up the brushes from Tanseido that I believe would be the best suited for powder bronzer application. So for this step, I would personally choose to use the WS17 for powder bronzer application, and I will be going in and using my Clé de Peau bronzing powder duo. I have the shade 2. I will say this is a really beautiful bronzer, but my main complaint about it is that it doesn't come in more shades. Again, I have combination to oily skin, so I typically prefer going in with goat hair, but if you do have sensitive skin, which I don't, then I would recommend using a squirrel hair brush or a red squirrel hair brush. I love the angled shape of this WS17. It just perfectly hugs your cheekbone. I like to pull my skin back when applying powder bronzer because I think that it gives me a better, more even application, and it helps avoid skipping. I'm also going to go in with the same WS17 brush into a little bit of the powder contour just so I can add some to my jawline right here. I didn't use the smaller brush because I didn't want this application to be so concentrated. I wanted it to be an airier, more diffused application of powder contour. Now, I unfortunately don't own a Clé de Peau blush anymore. I have tried Clé de Peau's blush formula. I will say it is nice, but I personally returned it just because I didn't think that it was worth the price. But I do think that they could also benefit from expanding the shade range and maybe making the shades more unique. It is a beautiful powder formula. I just think that there are so many other comparable powder blushes on the market that I like more. For this step, I'm going to be going in with my YSL. This is the new Make Me blush, and I picked up the shade 37 Peachy Nude. And for powder blush, these would be the Tanseido brushes that I would recommend. Again, you're seeing some repeats here just based on your personal preference. I will say I'll take this middle one out of the equation just because I think it's a little bit too fluffy, and I personally would prefer to use this one as an all over the face powder. But if you like a really diffused application of blush and you're in a rush and you just want more bristles to apply it, then this would be a good option for you. And these would be another option. It would just depend on your preference. Keep in mind that if the Kazan hair is still available, it will cost you more than the regular red squirrel hair. So it just depends on whether or not that is worth it to you. I will say that it's not worth it if you're not interested in collecting brushes. It's almost like being into fine wines where there tends to be just a smaller distinction in the quality of the bristles once you're getting into red squirrel, because the regular red squirrel is still super soft. This right here with the white tips is Tanseido's white pine squirrel, I believe. It might be called white Canadian squirrel. I do believe that this is also limited just because these bristles are definitely more rare. It offers a nice springy snapback to it. And again, this WS17 is also great for powder blush as well. Another great one for blush is this Squirrel one. It's similar to the one that I used for powder contour, except it has a round barrel and it has some more bristles packed in there. Again, different brush lengths are available and it just depends on your preference. I'm going to be using this squirrel hair brush for my powder blush application on one cheek, and then on the other cheek I'll be using my red squirrel hair brush. Again, what I love about the airiness of Tanseido's brushes is that when you're applying powders on top of creams, they are so wispy and the hairs are so soft that it will not move the products that you have in place underneath. A lot of times you risk that happening when you use too dense of a brush. Just gives you such a beautiful and diffused application. Now going in with the squirrel hair, this is a more flat paddle brush shape. So instead of swirling, this brush shape is better at swiping and tapping and patting. Again, both applying that product beautifully. Now for powder highlighter. Clé de Peau makes one of my top favorite powder highlighters. In fact, if I had to choose one powder highlighter in my entire collection, I would probably say Clé de Peau is my favorite. I have 4 of them. I don't think you necessarily need 4. You're probably fine sticking to only one of these. I would say that my personal favorite is the shade Golden Galaxy, which is this beautiful peachy bronzy shade. Just to showcase the rest of them for you, this is the shade 21 Daybreak Shimmer. They do tell you to leave this little cover on it just to make sure that the powder stays in there, since it's such a finely milled formula. This one is 203 Sunset's Brilliance. Beautiful, especially as a blush topper. And this one is in the shade 201 Twilight's Glow. It's this beautiful peachy purpley tone. I will say that once applied on the skin, you don't see that much of a differentiation in the shades. It just provides differences in the undertone. For powder highlight, when it comes to Tanseido, you have so many options. These are all of the brushes by Tanseido that I could reach for powder highlighter. I'm gonna choose this one for this step. I, again, don't know the exact name, but I do believe it is a mix of squirrel hair bristles. Another great option that I love for powder highlight is this pointy one, but because I already showcased it for under eye setting powder, I'm gonna just switch it up and use a different brush for this step. If you have more sensitive skin, then I would recommend using a squirrel hair brush for this step. I like using a more airy brush when I'm using these Clé de Peau powder highlighters because a little bit of this highlighter goes a really long way. Just look at how these bristles are just gliding across my skin. I can barely even feel them. They're so soft. And I'm gonna go in and do a quick little powder contour moment on my nose, and I would choose either of these 2 brushes by Tanseido for this step. This one is Tea-Dyed Goat, and it's this angled chubby brush, but I also really like using this one for the eyes. For eyeshadow, it's great. And I also love using this eyeshadow brush for precise application like this. I'm gonna go in with the Undyed Goat hair brush for this step today. Again, I love how airy these bristles are, but they still offer really great pickup and are super soft. And again, not moving any of the product that I have laid down already, which is especially important when it comes to this powder contour step for me. Since I went in a little bit heavy-handedly there, that's where this Tea-Dyed Goat hair brush is perfect, is to just help blend that powder contour out. Again, this tea-dyed process allows the bristles to have more body, but still keep their softness. I love how you can use this angle brush in different ways. You could use the sharper ends to be more precise, or you can use the flat end to give you a higher concentration of product or really blend out product as well. Okay, let's transition to the eyes now. I brought out the one and only eyeshadow quad that I have personally from Clé de Peau, and I'm forgetting the name right now, but I will link everything I'm using down below in the description box. But these eyeshadows are so elegant. The formula is beautiful. They're powders, but they're almost creamy feeling, so they're very flattering laying on eye wrinkles. Now again, Tanseido provides you with many options when it comes to eyeshadow brushes. These are my personal top picks when it comes to eyeshadow. Again, providing you a variety of choices when it comes to bristle type and shape. I love this CC15. It was a collaboration between Fude Bobo and Tanseido. Unfortunately, it may be discontinued. These brushes are handmade in small batches, so they often do come in and out of stock, but I really appreciate how chubby and round this brush shape is, especially in this particular type of hair. It's just rare to see. So I love using this brush as a one and done or as a crease brush just to throw some bronzer in my crease, and I'm good to go, just like on a daily basis when I don't have time to do intricate eyeshadow looks. I'm first going to be going in with this tea-dyed chubby slanted brush, and I'm going into this shade right here, and I'm starting off here because Clé de Peau in these quads does provide you with a base shade, and it's meant to be a base eyeshadow before applying the rest of the shades. So I'm just dipping into that shade and applying it all over the lid. I love using this brush when I really want to pack on the product. By the way, I do have Lashify eyelashes on. I have made a couple of videos that I have on here if you're interested in seeing how I apply this under eyelash system. It's an at-home DIY lash extension system that I'm absolutely obsessed with. And if you go through the link in my description box down below, you are able to get 20% off on the Lashify website. I'm just gonna go and do a quick, simple eyeshadow look today. And I'm going to take this white pine squirrel hair brush and go into this mid-tone brown shade here, which is almost pretty much like a bronzer shade. And I like to start out by just putting that into the crease. Look at how effortlessly that's applying. Super easy. It's already doing the work for you. It just naturally blows out that eyeshadow. The bristles are so soft, they're not even hardly moving my skin around. And look how easy that was. This particular brush is definitely one of my most highly coveted Tanseido brushes. If it is still available or if it does come back in stock, I highly recommend you pick it up. Now I'm going in with that same shade and just throwing a little bit of that eyeshadow on my lower lash line. Now this particular shade by Tanseido is one of my favorites. They offer it in regular Sokoho undyed goat hair and also in the tea dyed goat hair version. I love using this particular shade brush as a packing brush. So for instance, taking this pink eyeshadow shade here, look at how those bristles just effortlessly pick up that product. I'm just tilting my head to the side just so I can avoid as much fallout as possible. Even though these eyeshadows don't have much fallout at all, I just am in the habit of doing it when I'm wearing my eyelashes just so I don't get any eyeshadow on them. I love how these bristles really pick up the product and really put it down. They're very efficient because not much is left on the brush and they're so soft. They just provide such a beautiful and even application. You can pick up these 3 different sized eyeshadow brushes as a trio as well, and I would highly recommend doing so. They're just really great practical shapes. I love using this little one here, which is basically just a smaller version of the one that I just used. I like using this small one for more precise areas. So for instance, I could go in with this one and do a pop of an inner corner highlight, or I could even turn it horizontally and just go in with this deeper brown shade here and really deepen up the lash line. I'm gonna actually go back in with my highlighter in the shade Golden Galaxy, and I'm going into that white shade just because I want my inner corner to be super bright. And I'm just showing you, look at how effortlessly that lays down that product on the inner corner. I love doing this step. It's like I can't do my makeup without doing an inner corner highlight. It just brightens up and opens up the eye in such a beautiful way. This is a great brush for a precise cut crease eyeshadow look as well. I even like to use this super small brush to throw a little bit of shadow right here for a brown bone highlight, and even for a cute little nose highlight too. I love that it's so precise. It's super useful to get into the little areas. So to deepen up my lash line, I love how we have so many options with Tanseido. You could use this super thin skinny one for like a liquid eyeliner, or even this one for a powder liner, and I can show you what I mean by that. This is the same brush as I just used for my inner corner highlight, except it's in the tea dyed version, which again, the tea dyed version just gives the bristles a little bit more body and strength. Now, if I wanted to be more precise, I would go into this even smaller one, going in with the same shade. And this one's perfect if you want to kind of flick out your wing. See how easy that was? This is also perfect to get into the smaller areas like the inner corner if you like doing a little inner corner wing as well. Whenever I do a powder wing, I love taking my Tanseido KQ12S and I just either have a little bit of residue from concealer, or I apply a tiny bit of the same concealer that I was already using if I have some left over, or go into something like a pot concealer. I love this Soft Matte Complete Concealer by NARS for this step. You could even take a powder and just sharpen up your wing. I just love how sharp this KQ12S brush is bundled. It is Kolinsky hair, so it's super resilient, yet it's very, very soft. See how easy and precise that cleanup was? Tanseido even offers a similar brush to this KQ12S in a different bristle type. I thought this mix was very unique. I believe it's weasel and squirrel hair mixed. I could be wrong, but it's just another example as to how Tanseido makes similar brush shapes with different hair types. I love this brush here as an eyeshadow laydown brush. The Kolinsky one, as you can see, is just more precise. It's razor sharp. They even have the KQ12S available in the tea dyed goat hair version as well. If I had to pick my all-time favorite Tanseido brush, it has to be the KQ12S. I use this in every single one of my makeup looks. If you look back at all of my YouTube videos, you'll probably see this brush in every single one. And if you don't see it, it's probably just because I edited the footage out. This is how much I adore this brush. It is a must in my makeup routine and in my makeup collection. I love it so much that I even purchased an additional 2 to have as backups because I never want to be without it. I love it to carve out my eyebrows or to sharpen up my wing liner just like I did today. I also love it to clean up around my lips. So let's go into a lippie, shall we? Now again, I don't have a Clé de Peau lip liner. I did have it at one point, but I ended up returning it as well just because I didn't find that it was so groundbreaking for the price, but it is refillable. So I can appreciate that Clé de Peau is trying to be more eco-friendly and offer refillable packaging. I'm just gonna go in with my Sicily lip liner. This is a tried and true. I love this Sicily lip liner. This is in the shade beige. It's again arguably more expensive than what it's worth, but if you're into luxury beauty like me, then I don't think you'll be disappointed with this Sicily lip liner. It's creamy upon application, not too creamy though. It is still very long lasting. The only thing I have on my lips is a little bit of residual lip balm, and the lip balm I use today is this Topicals lip balm. This is the Slick Salve Mint lip balm by Topicals. Even though this Sicily lip liner is in the shade beige, I also really adore the shade chocolate. It's slightly deeper than this shade. And moving right along, I do have 3 Lippies by Clé de Peau. I have their liquid lip in the shade Chocolate Cosmos. It's a beautiful shade and it really is long lasting. I highly recommend their liquid lip liners. They're one of the best I've ever tried. They have this moussey formula, but it's so flattering on the lips and the shade is really great as well. Then I have this lipstick in the shade Triumphant Tawny. I did use this in a recent YouTube video and it's just a classic shade. I just love it. It's the perfect cooler leaning kind of mauve-y shade. Similar to the liquid lip in the shade Chocolate Cosmos, but in a more satin lipstick formula. And then lastly, I have the shade 213 Playful Pink. This is the Clé de Peau Brilliant Lipstick. This is in their Shine formula, so it's definitely more of a glossy formula, and it is more of a balmy formula as well. I'm tempted to go in with Triumphant Tawny, but because I used it in my last video, I will be going in with the shade Chocolate Cosmos. This is in 111. And I'm just gonna throw on some bottom lash mascara. I do not own a Clé de Peau mascara. I'm not sure if Clé de Peau has a mascara. If they do, and if you've ever tried it, please leave me your thoughts down below. I'd love to know. I'm gonna go in with the Hourglass Instant Extensions mascara. This is a tubing mascara formula, so I do love it for my lower lash line since it doesn't transfer or give me raccoon eyes. And that's the look, y'all. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please go ahead and give it a like, subscribe to my channel, and turn on your notification bell so you know every time I post a new video. Love you.